I have a question for you, one that really makes you stop and think, to reflect on the game and what truly matters over the course of an entire basketball season. Imagine a player who is practically averaging a triple-double, but not just any triple-double, something close to 30 points per game, something extremely rare and impressive. Wouldn't that player on his own already deserve to be considered the MVP? Now think about another athlete, someone who might not be drawing as much attention for scoring, but is putting together one of the most absurd defensive seasons we've ever seen in the history of the sport. Shouldn't that automatically put him in the conversation? And what if we bring yet another name into this discussion? A player who is putting up around 34 points per game, someone who even managed to maintain a 40-point average over an entire month, something very few have ever done. Doesn't that clearly qualify him for the award? And it doesn't stop there, because there is also that extremely efficient player, scoring around 30 points per game with historic shooting efficiency, leading his team towards something close to 65 wins in the season. So, deep down, the answer seems simple. All of these players are having MVP-level seasons, seasons that in any other year would likely be enough to win the award. But the problem begins when all of this happens at the same time, when multiple candidates have strong, compelling, almost undeniable arguments, and there is only one award available. In that scenario, the big question arises, who truly deserves to be the most valuable player of the season? The truth is that this answer is never completely objective. It depends on who is analyzing it, on each person's perspective, on what they value in the game, whether it's scoring, efficiency, defense, team impact, or individual dominance. Normally, when we talk about MVP, we're talking about numbers that immediately stand out, statistics that grab attention right away, that make anyone stop and take notice. It's not the only criterion, of course, but it has become almost a basic requirement. Today, there are players who are not just having great seasons, they are standing out even when compared to other great seasons in recent years. If we look only at raw numbers, it becomes clear that some athletes are operating at a level far above the rest of the league. These numbers are so extraordinary that they make even excellent performances seem ordinary. When we combine points, rebounds, and assists, we see seasons that easily rank among the most productive of the modern era. And this leads us to an interesting point because, in the past, reaching this statistical level was something extremely rare, almost automatically securing the MVP award. Today, with the constant rise in offensive production across the league, these historic seasons are becoming more frequent. This creates a curious effect. The more we see absurd numbers, the less impact they seem to have. What was once extraordinary is starting to feel normal. There was a time when averaging a triple-double practically guaranteed the MVP, even if the team wasn't among the best. Today, not even that is enough to secure a spot among the top candidates. While some players are filling the stat sheet with historic volume, others stand out in different ways through incredible efficiency, consistency throughout the season, and most importantly, direct impact on winning. There is a type of player who doesn't necessarily lead every statistical category, but does everything with remarkable precision, making smart decisions, minimizing mistakes, and maintaining consistency from start to finish. In addition, when we look deeper, we realize that not everything shows up in traditional statistics. Some players have a massive defensive impact, something that often goes unnoticed if you only look at the box score. Others had their minutes managed throughout the season, which naturally limits their total numbers, but when we analyze their production on a per-possession basis, their impact remains enormous. This shows that the MVP race goes far beyond simple numbers. It involves context, understanding the game, and recognizing what each player represents within their team. Another important factor is team performance. Even though it is an individual award, team success carries significant weight in the decision. There is a common logic many people follow. If a player is truly the most valuable, he should elevate his team to a higher level. But this also sparks debate because not every great player is on a strong team. Sometimes a player has to carry a limited roster just to keep the team competitive. That alone already demonstrates immense value, even if the team isn't at the top of the standings. When we move into advanced metrics, the discussion becomes even more interesting. There are many different ways to measure impact. Some attempt to capture offensive value, others defensive contributions, and others overall influence on the game. Some metrics point to one player as the most impactful in the season, while others highlight a completely different name. This shows that there is no single answer. Each analytical method brings a different perspective. We can also look at preseason expectations and compare them to what actually happened. Teams that exceed expectations usually have a player performing at an MVP level driving that success. When a team significantly outperforms projections, it strengthens that player's case even more. On the other hand, there are teams that were already expected to be strong and simply confirmed that expectation, which also adds value to the player who sustained that level throughout the entire season. There is also the analysis of direct on-court impact, meaning how much better a team performs when a player is on the court compared to when he is on the bench. This type of data is very revealing because it clearly shows how much a player's presence changes the team's level. In some cases, the difference is enormous, turning an average team into a highly competitive one. Historically, the MVP award tends to favor players from winning teams, those at the top of the standings. This makes sense to a certain extent, but it also raises an important question: does this always reflect true individual value? Or are we sometimes rewarding the context more than the player himself? When we analyze all of these variables, numbers, efficiency, impact, team performance, advanced metrics, and team context, it becomes clear that the MVP race is one of the most complex discussions in sports. There is no single criterion, no definitive answer. Each argument carries weight, each player has a legitimate case. In the end, it all comes down to perspective. If you value statistical dominance, you might choose one player. If you prioritize team impact, you might choose another. If defense matters most to you, your choice could be completely different. And that is exactly what makes this discussion so fascinating. There is no single correct answer, only interpretation. With so many strong candidates and compelling arguments on all sides, the final decision ends up being a combination of everything: numbers, narrative, impact, consistency, and of course, the perspective of those evaluating it. And perhaps it is precisely this lack of consensus that makes the MVP award so special, because it is not just about who played the best, but about who managed to stand out in the most meaningful way in an extremely competitive environment. Subscribe to the channel. Bye!